Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Thriving Lives podcast, to our weekly community Zoom call. Tonight's topic, we are going to be talking about finding a sense of control with food and how that can be good, how that can be bad, the different avenues and routes that we can take to kind of get there with that. Before we dive into that topic, though, Renee, how's your past week been?
Pretty good. Not much to report, just working and did a nice little 5 a.m. workout yesterday. That was good. Yesterday was busy. And today I've just been beyond exhausted.
Yeah.
So
Why are you so tired? Did you not go to sleep on time? You stay up late and eat ice cream?
it's really funny. Thanks for bringing that up. Uh, I told Marcus earlier, he told me about this topic, and most people know I'm usually very, very, very on point with my like nutrition and meals and everything. Um, and he was like, "We're gonna talk about like eating and stuff," and I'm like, "Okay, really cool." I did in fact eat a pint of ice cream last night. Not just like a little bit of it. Like I just kept eating the entire pint. I was like, "Okay." So yeah, my I get like random cravings. So
What kind of ice
usually
cream was it?
and where I'm at in my cycle. It's berry chantilly cake ice cream from Whole Foods, but it's vegan, so it's dairy free and gluten free. So
Nice.
that's great.
Could have
Just
been
don't
worse.
read the nutrition label on it and the calories and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably yeah, Lauren, it is super good. It's one of my favorites. And I can't have their berry chantilly cake. Well, I think they make one that's gluten free now, but it's like a giant cake, and I haven't tried it yet. But anywho, that cake is really good from Whole Foods, and I can't have that. Um, so yeah. And then I mean, other than that, I'm still getting to a balance of working and
You
getting my
realize
sleep. My sleep,
you
what?
realize you never find balance and keep it. It just changes and it evolves.
Yeah, and I think that's
Always
where I'm
striving
struggling
for it.
because like I was doing pretty well for a little bit, and then now like my sleep was getting better. Like we had moved my workouts like the evenings or like
Yeah.
weekends to get more sleep, and then now I think near around that same time or afterwards is when every like life picked up as far as like work. And so now I'm working later. Like I'll come home and I just am either making content or
Yeah.
working or responding to clients or
Yeah.
making Pilates classes or anything. And so I'm just not getting as much sleep. And I think that is starting to take a toll on me some days.
Is it weird that I like watching like the trials and the struggle a little bit? Not from like a haha, this is shitty. Just to see that the growth happen. Because like I can see it from like my perspective and watching you grow as a coach, and then obviously just figure out all the shit. How do you still keep prioritizing it even when it's not optimal
Yeah. It is
or not?
interesting, like it is interesting to watch and to see. And I think like I said, I'm someone that always just focuses on growth and health and things like that. And so to struggle is it's good for me, but it's also something where I want to be the best at everything I do. Not the best, but I want to be my best
Yeah.
everything I do. And so I just am still learning and learning that I've got discipline down in many aspects of my life. But when it comes to like, hey, I should take a 20-minute break and then go back to work instead of, okay, well, I've worked all day, so now I need to relax for an hour, but then now I've relaxed for an hour, so I don't really want to do anything, but now I'm hungry, so now I have to make dinner. Like it's just a different thing
Yeah.
to navigate. And then some nights I don't work as much, and then I just find myself like what's your balloons there? Find myself
Oh.
just like scrolling on my phone because I'm like, oh yeah, I work really hard. I want to like veg out. Um, but yeah, it's just a balance. It is. Pilates will slow down soon. I've said that for months now. Um,
Easier.
but I'm really determined that it will in fact slow down soon.
Yeah.
Um,
You'll get it figured out. You're doing great, Renee.
but yeah, so moral of the story, long story short, probably one of the reasons why I'm tired is because I probably consumed 5,000 grams of sugar last night in my ice cream.
Yeah.
Um, and but on the bright side, I did not buy chocolate chips at the store last week. I was like, I've been eating these too much. I'm not gonna buy them. But the problem is, I had this ice cream hidden in my freezer, and I was like, ugh. Yeah,
If you got it on hand, it's easier to eat. It's way harder to eat if you don't have it.
but now I have nothing on hand. And so like now I get in these moods where I'm hungry
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, now actually I have no food when I am actually hungry.
Yeah.
Funny. But
It's a good
yeah.
week. Good week. Good week
Um,
minus the ice cream last night, and that's not a big deal.
I did have ice cream on Sunday night too, because my friend wanted to
Jesus,
go
Brittany.
get ice cream.
Good gracious. Ice cream galore this week.
Dude, I know. Um, yeah, it's fine. Ice cream's gone. I have fruit now, and that helps.
There you go. Good deal. Um, all right, perfect. Well, I don't really have much to share about my last week. It was a good
Went to
week.
a concert last night.
Went to concert last night. I did have 2 beers and
Yeah, let's talk about you now. Let's
was
talk
it?
about what you indulged in last night.
Yeah, I did it outside the house. I went to a concert. I had it was a made it a special occasion, but yeah, I had a couple beers. Was nice, great concert, good times. Actually, I thought about this topic literally in the middle of the actual like the headliner band because we went there for the opener, and then my uncle likes the actual band that we were going to see or whatnot. So during that, I just spaced out and was just thinking about Zoom topic ideas and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But obviously, it's good enough music where like it's type of music that I'll put on the background and work to.
Concerts are easy like that. I feel like to like zoom out.
Yeah, which isn't a bad thing. I feel like if
Yeah.
music can allow you to kind of do that, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So it was a good time. Like I said, the effects of even just one beer, and this isn't just me. This is anybody. Even if you have a high tolerance for alcohol, it will disrupt your sleep cycle. It'll disrupt your circadian rhythm. It will keep you from really getting any REM sleep, which is when we have actual restorative. Our body recovers, our mind recovers, and we can actually grow like that. So whenever you're drinking, again, even just one drink before you go to bed or close to bedtime like that, it will disrupt your sleep. You're going to wake up more often, stuff of that nature. You might fall asleep easier than normal, but you're not going to stay asleep. You're not going to have very deep sleep, quality sleep. And that's one of the many reasons why alcohol should be used sparingly and moderation, times it makes sense, not just a Tuesday night of me sitting at home and I had a stressful day at work, which is actually going to kind of come into the topic that we're talking about tonight as well.
So alcohol is a toxin to your body. So your body has to like its main job when you're drinking alcohol is to get that out of your system, and that's its number one job. And so your other functions, your other like normal healthy bodily functions and systems
They're disrupted, yeah.
Optimally because they're disrupted and because your body thinks, okay, get this toxin out of my body.
You're literally, you put poison into your body essentially.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to say that Renee and I don't ever drink, that we don't. Again, I think that drinking is part of a balanced life. But again, moderation, time and place, context matters, especially when it comes to alcohol and stuff like that. But yeah, so sleep was messed up. So a little bit more tired today, had to kind of push through, which then again, coming back to a cycle that a lot of people get into, drank alcohol last night, sleep was poor, drank more coffee today. Now that's going to be limited to just that 24-hour little cycle. But a lot of people fall into that cycle or then they have a social occasion tonight and they'll drink tonight. And then they're leaning on more coffee tomorrow because again, they slept poorly. And then, I mean, I couldn't even imagine of doing that for, a week straight and what the effects would be like on me with that. But eventually you kind of get numb to and get used to it. And that's how people get settled into those very, very unhealthy routines that are extremely, extremely hard to break. So it's always good to see I live clean most of the time. So whenever I have more of a dirty night, if you will, to immediately see, oh, this is the reason why this is not part of my normal practices, normal life. But let that kind of snowball or not snowballs, but leads us into the topic that we're talking about tonight. So tonight we're talking about 3 different ways in which people will seek food or alcohol, I guess, in the same situation as a sense of control. Okay. So, obviously, whether you're in Renee's boat, my boat, or your own boat, and you got your own kids, you got your own work stresses, family stresses, life stresses, maybe you're taking care of a parent, whatever, or maybe minimal of that stuff, right? Everybody's stressors are all within their perspective, hard stresses and stuff of that nature. So one thing that a lot of people will utilize food for is a sense of control. And I feel like, I'm going to start with the negative in terms of how people can do this. So let's paint a picture of a person who doesn't like their job, Maybe they don't like their boss. Their boss is terrible. They don't like their coworkers. They don't like what they do. They don't like their lot in life of some sort, shape, or form. Maybe it is a bad marriage at home, whatever that kind of looks like. Maybe it's just you love your kids, but your kids are just exhausting, right? And they depend on you and you have to do all this stuff, but you just need a moment of your own peace every now and then. I think that the best parents in the world are going to be able to relate to that exact same thing. And then, and again, in Renee's situation, maybe she has people, in her dental chair every day that she's like, I fucking hate this person, right? And she's like, I just can't. And there's like 20 of them that she has to deal with that day. And so by the end of the day, even though she likes her job, that type of stuff, you just had a shitty day. And so what that person does is what's something that they can find immediate gratification in, right? Now, Renee and I at this point, her last night, it might have been a little bit of ice cream. I don't think that's necessarily what she was doing so much, but we're going to utilize the gym. We're going to utilize healthier habits as our stress reliever, as our outlet that we lean on in times of that kind of stress, right? That's how we seek out that control. But the average person, this person that I'm talking about first, that uses, food as seeking it for the emotional control, so and this really stems to our childhood a lot of times. So food becomes, a primary way that people end up managing their emotions when life gets overwhelming, stressful, hectic, stuff of that, stuff of that nature. This approach we all know this as emotional eating. It involves using food as a way to cope with our feelings rather than to actually satisfy a hunger. Because in that moment, or even just the excitement, the anticipation of whatever that tasty food is, or that tasty meal, or that, that drink, or whatever it is that you're going to drink, that leading up to it, we feel better about. And then especially whenever we have it, we have that, if it feels good, it tastes good, whatever, so when we're stressed, we're anxious, feeling out of control, a lot of people turn to food for that comfort, for that solace, for, maybe even just a distraction from what it is that they're actually dealing with. And that emotional control route, manifests in different, ways, seeking out, sugary foods, again, or alcohol, or whatever the case is. And it makes us feel comforted and safer and happier in that exact moment. And so this is how we look at those foods like that. Emotional eating leads to our comfort foods, right? We all have our own personal comfort foods that we grew up with, that we tend to lean on during these times. And this is even somebody like myself, who I have control over my nutrition and my emotional eating and stuff of that nature for the most part.
There's
But
gonna
again,
be times for everyone. I mean,
do what?
there's gonna be times for everyone, like when everyone is
We all
gonna
know. Yes.
comfort. Like,
And
no, literally no one is perfect. Like,
yeah,
there's the average person, I would say, like, it's really hard for them to build discipline around this because
yep.
they don't notice immediate like issues with it. Whereas like I eat ice cream, or I eat whatever, something I'm not supposed to, I have an immediate like negative effect. And
Like
so that's why I
digestion,
had
stomach wise, everything else. Yes.
stomach wise, energy level wise, everything plummets. And so it's not a benefit because I don't like it, but
Yeah.
it's a way of like discipline for me. Whereas most people, they don't notice these bad effects of emotional eating
Yeah.
until they're overweight, or until they kind of wake up and realize it. But most people don't have that immediate negative effect. And so that's why that cycle is so easy to continue. And that's why when you started as a kid, or started as however old, it's just going to keep kind of like
Yeah. Well,
building.
and that's the reason why you and I stress progress over perfection. Because I'll have some people that will report that to me and feel just so emotionally down on themselves about it and beating themselves up for having that emotional response. Where again, you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 years of rewiring your brain and how we turn to food and stuff like that as a coping strategy and stuff. So yes, I'm happy you brought that up because yeah, we should recognize it. I'm not saying we should feel good about those times, but we shouldn't beat ourselves up and let that continue to compound into a big thing,
Yeah.
or act like you're failing, because you're not failing when you have that. Like Renee just said, her and I are going to have those times from time to time as well. Now, the key with this is let's recognize those triggers. Let's recognize that emotional response and reflect on it right then in the moment. And when you can start doing that at a quicker response rate versus waiting till the day after to recognize that, if you can recognize it more in the moment, you're making a ton of progress, right? If this used to happen to you every single day and now it happens to you once
For
a week.
all three meals as well. That's something like,
Yes, for all
again,
three.
if
Yeah.
this isn't just a one up. This isn't like, in my case, I'm stressed, I'm tired, of period's going to start soon, I'm going to indulge in ice cream. This is someone that is every single meal they're viewing food is like, I need to eat, like, this
Yeah.
is the only thing that's bringing me joy right now, or
Yep.
this is the only thing that I can look forward to because I'm
Yep.
so stressed at work. And so I need this to take the edge off or whatever.
Yep.
These people are doing this, and you're not bad if you're this person. It's just like there's different types of people, there's different types of scenarios, whatever, but they're doing this for every meal.
Yep.
And that's where it's becoming, I mean, does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. Well,
Okay.
what you're saying is the extreme person who every day, every single meal, very, very consistently feels like this. But even the person that it only happens to once a day or once every few days or whatever, the goal that we're looking for is this should become few and far between. Again, it's still going to happen from time to time. And sometimes I'm like, fuck it. I had a stressful day. I do want to go do this. But again, maybe the last time I did that was 6 months ago or 3 months ago,
Yes.
whatever that
You
was.
have to learn, and I think it's easy, like, I don't know. Were you ever like, I was definitely like that in the past. Like I used to always lean towards food, and lean towards like I had a bad day, so I want this or whatever. And so it's possible to change. Like I said, I've changed
Yeah.
completely.
I said
I
I didn't do that so much. I would be like, I'm smashing legs today and I'm going to all you can eat sushi afterwards. Like I would use like, how am I
okay.
going to use this food in the gym or use this
Yeah.
gym to then allow me to have that? So that was kind of my
And
advice.
I think that's where you and I are different too, is like, um, I haven't always been in like this fitness health realm. It's, I mean, it's not new to me, but within the last 3 or so years. And so I still notice what I know what it's like to sit there and like emotionally or um do those things. And so I think that's a cool perspective
Yeah.
between the two of us
Yeah.
is I used to have that tendency and I've changed it with discipline.
Yeah.
Um, but
So to bring it back then into the emotional side of things as well. So a challenge with that emotional control route is that it becomes a habitual response to stress. Good things, but especially bad things. It's that becomes our habit once we allow that cycle to kind of start. So, instead of addressing the root cause of whatever those stressors are and whatever those emotions are coming from, we just mask it, right? We just put that band-aid over it with whatever that food is, whatever that drink is, and we utilize that as our coping mechanism. Um, and it just creates this roller coaster effect where our mood and energy levels fluctuate dramatically based on all this stuff, right? That kind of goes hand in hand with it. So that is the emotional control route. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, I do that often, or I do that once every now and then, I do that in this certain circumstance, you have to recognize, you have to be able to be reflective and think about how often does this happen to me? Why does this happen? If you don't know why that's happening, that's okay, but be more intuitive and be more aware of these things as they're happening. Include that in your check-ins. If you had one of these nights on Wednesday night, let's say, when you're checking in with Renee and I, let us know what's going on. Let us know that did happen. Because again, we're not going to sit here and yell at you for it, but let's talk about why that was. Like, what
yeah,
was that?
you can't fix it if you don't recognize it. And if you don't sit like when I emotionally eat, I know exactly what's wrong with me. I know exactly what is triggering it.
Yep.
And so this is another example of again why Marcus and I don't do 8 week fitness challenges or why we don't do 8 week like crash course diet.
You don't
And
learn
that's
it. You don't
because
learn anything.
well, A, you're not learning anything, but B, this is your whole body. Like your eating is very tied to your mental health. And so you can't fix one without fixing the other.
Yeah. And if you sign up for 8 week challenge, you can be like, I can stuff these feelings aside. It's only 8 weeks. Then it's only
Oh
6.
yeah.
And then it's only 4 weeks. And then I'm like, oh, I got 1 week left. And then all the shit that you've been just putting to the side for the last 8 weeks, it all comes back to, to become a parent there after that challenge done. So yeah, that's exactly why we don't do that. And because again, it requires that week over week reflection and growth and taking steps in the right direction. So that's the emotional control route. And I think that again, we all do this in some way, shape, or form, but recognize where you're at on that spectrum. Are you doing this often? Are you doing this a lot? Do you use food as that immediate gratification, source for your emotions on a very consistent basis, or is it just every now and then? Again, if it's every now and then, not a huge deal. I think you should still be reflective of what that stressor is that's happening and still be aware of it so you can make the educated decision. Am I going to allow myself to do this today? And every now and then you might, right? I'm going to do that every now and then, but not letting
What?
it become your habit. Like it's not habitual for me. It's just an every now and then thing that I give myself the grace to allow that. And I think we all can use that a little bit.
what are some ways, if you are an emotional eater, you can change it? Like, what are some things that I think if we talk about it, I think we should say what
Well,
things.
I think the first thing you need to do is before we even look at the replacements for the food and stuff of that nature is you got to get more in tune with your mental health and your stress
Yeah.
for every single day. You know, one of the easiest things that I always recommend when I'm seeing a person kind of get out of balance and is that 5 minute journal. Again, it's a very small thing. It's something that you can make a routine, a ritual out of every morning, every night. You just fill that out real quick. And like I said, I talked about this a couple of months ago when I was super stressed. I got some lab work back, showed my cortisol was through the roof, which now I'm happy to say that that is down back into a perfect range after a few months. That is the perk of getting your lab work done. You can see when shit's out of whack, and then we can address it and make lifestyle changes, not just supplement changes, but lifestyle changes then to help that. But so one of the things I did back when I saw that cortisol was that high is I wrote down every day, where am I at on the mountain? I did a self-check. Where am I at from a stress standpoint? Where am I at from a fucking go, 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 go? I'm crazy out of my mind, stressed out, checking shit off my to-do list. Where am I at on that mountain? Where am I at on the mountain as a father and as a husband and as a friend and family and stuff of that nature? Where am I at with that? And so for me, it's as simple as if I did that every morning, I did that at the end of the day, honestly, after a few weeks, I'm back in balance, right? I'm very fortunate to have Nicole, who's very in tune with her emotions and extremely in tune with my emotions, probably more than I even am. She knows when I'm out of balance and out of whack and stressed out before I even recognize it. So I'm very blessed to have that at home, though sometimes it doesn't really feel like a blessing. It is a blessing. I do recognize that. But so having people that you can talk to about it, but again, before you can even address and make swaps when it comes to your choice about how to cope, you've got to get in tune and be able to actually look at yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself about what is going on, right? And if you absolutely hate your job and it's the most miserable thing in the world, I know it's easier said than done, but make the
Yeah.
fucking change. Like if this is you only get one life to live, and if you absolutely hate what you do every single day for 8, 9+ hours, then do something different. Change something, right? If you absolutely hate your spouse, which hopefully that's not happening with anybody here, but again, you only get to do and again, easier said than done. So I'm not sitting here to say, hey, go get divorced right now. But what I am saying though is you do have control over some of those things. And by just kicking the can down the road, nothing's ever going to get better. That shit's only going to get worse. You're going to feel worse every single day until you actually take control of it. And that is the root cause. That is the reason why you're using food or alcohol as a coping mechanism, because there is shit in your life that you have no control, that you have control over, but you're not actually taking control over it. So then you're utilizing the other little things to bring you a little sense of joy, and that might be your only glimmer of joy in that day. And if that's the case, like I get why you use food as your source of that happiness, because you're getting it from nowhere else. But once we know that and can recognize that, maybe you can make some of these changes in your life. Maybe you can make some work changes, whatever the case is. But then also now we can start using some replacement habits. So I personally think the first and foremost step that you got to do is be able to be in tune and in touch with your own, emotions and mental health and stuff of that nature. And then you can kind of go on down the line. Renee, that didn't really answer your question.
I just was trying to tell people, like, I feel like if I was
Okay, cool.
listening to this podcast or the Zoom or
What's a
whatever,
takeaway? How do I fix this? Yes.
well, I'm like, okay, great. So you tell me I emotionally eat, but now what do I do about it? So I would say one, I would replace your poor food choices with strawberries and blueberries, or with
Have different food on hand.
So
Yes. Have
different food on hand to start shifting these cravings, to start shifting these habits that you're doing. I mean, sometimes it's not always easy to just take away a habit, but if we can shift the habit, if we can pair this negative habit with a positive food, great. That's one way. Second, I would say go on a walk or read a book or splash cold water on your face or
and like, all those sounds,
it sounds, I mean,
it sounds stupid until you actually do it.
Until you actually do it, yeah. So like I would say the first step is going to be switching it with a healthier food choice.
Yeah.
Second is going to be maybe have a fun drink. Maybe you want to put like flavor in your water, and that's going to help you. That's something good to look forward to, but it's not poorly affecting you. So just other ways to add control into your life or add a sense of serotonin or whatever. I would say that would be where I would.
Well, and like you said, sometimes it's hard just to fully remove a habit. And so again, allowing you to have that habit, but just improve what that looks like, right? If you have a few extra strawberries that day and that's what you're cheating with extra snacking, okay, so you got more vitamins and minerals, and your body's probably a little bit more even relaxed, and you benefited because you had those strawberries with it. And you're not. It's going to be really hard to overeat strawberries and take you out of a calorie deficit. Anyway, with it, if you're trying to lose weight or whatever the case is. So yeah, it's replacing those foods with it. I think that's definitely a great option. And talking about it to another extent, I have a client. Well, I've had this conversation probably 100 different times with various people over the years, and that's the people that come to me, and alcohol is their vice. It's what they use to shut their brain off at night. It's they come home, first thing to do is grab a drink, grab a beer, grab a whiskey or whatever, and that is their off switch. That is their I am no more of use to work or to people outside of my house. That is their off switch, and they're done for the night. And so in those situations, if that's it, again, we might not be able to just say, hey, you're going to stop that completely, but maybe let's change the vice. And that's where, hey, let's lean towards, I'm not going to really be pushy on it, but let's lean towards weed than alcohol, right? Because if you're going to do that, you're at least not going to be hungover the next day. You're at least not going to develop liver disease and insulin resistance and screw up your sleep and screw up any of your goals with that. You can still have the vice, a little shut off switch, but for the time being, maybe let's just swap that out with something a lesser of the evils, right? Or again, obviously exercise is a huge thing that most people who are overly stressed, they're not doing that. And so they're feeling kind
First
of
step again is that mental awareness.
mental awareness is huge. And that's the reason why, what do we do every week?
Check-ins.
Weekly check-ins. If we're doing those weekly check-ins, you're going to become more mentally aware of all this stuff. And that's the whole point of it. Now, let's talk about real quick about two other routes that you can go in terms of control. Now, one of them, and this one I think is probably just, I'd put it up there with, I think this same person is the same person we just talked about to a similar extent as well, but it's the convenience route. So this one isn't really in a ton of control, and that's why they're not eating very healthy, right? So life is hectic, and these people are just reaching for whatever food is convenient, good, bad, whatever. Usually what that looks like is going to be bad food. And when I say bad food, again, I don't like to demonize food, but things that don't work well for your longevity and your health goals. These are going to be your fast foods, your snacks, your ready-made meal that offer a quick fix. And in your own world where you don't have a lot of time or control that type of stuff, I guess.
People that are likely under eating, which I know Marcus and I talk about frequently too. You can't undereat like that. You're going to harm, like that's going to mess up your body system. Like being in such a caloric deficit to where you're under eating, if you think that's going to help you lose weight, it's not going to.
Yep.
So these are probably the people that are like, oh, I really want to lose weight, so I'm just going to eat a protein shake today or this or that.
Yeah, you're massively under eating.
Yeah, and if you forget to eat or things like that, that's probably a person that is convenience linked to under eating to an extent.
Yeah. Well, and that's a convenience, control as well as that. It's just I've heard a lot of people say it's just easier to not eat. So some people have the complete opposite, right? They're not using food to pacify their emotions. They're just not eating and then just powering through the rest of the day because they are busy or because they are
so harmful.
Yes. And I would say that that's just as harmful as the other extreme, right? And I also talked about this today with somebody as well, is I think everywhere in the world, right? In every topic that we could discuss, whether it's health related or just world related, stop living in the extremes. Get more into a healthy middle ground. Everything is healthy in moderation for the most part. Like I said, alcohol is healthy in moderation. When I say moderation, that doesn't mean one beer a day and then the rest of water. No, that's not the moderation we're talking about. But so stop living in such extreme. Stop living the extreme of always emotional eating, but stop living the extreme of just underfeeding yourself, whether that's for the sake of seeing the scale go down or the sake of convenience or whatever. That is an extreme on its own. And those people tend to be like, well, I'm healthier because I'm not eating X, Y, and Z, but you're just not eating at all. And so your metabolism is getting screwed up because of that. Your hormones, from a sex hormone standpoint, from a thyroid hormone standpoint, not to mention just quality of life, is going down further and further, especially this is chronic and this happens for years, which unfortunately all this stuff does. Both of these people right here, it's chronic for them. This is happening for a long time. Maybe it stemmed from their childhood. Maybe they started this when they become an adult, and they're out of high school or college or whatever, and this is where they end up snowballing into. And both of these are very hard to break. In this situation, the convenience route, this comes back to meal prepping, right? If you're just meal prep on the weekends, if you have some things, if you don't have time to meal prep, then utilize a meal prep service, right? Somebody that's going to be delivering food to your house, or that you can go pick up, fresh or frozen meals or whatever that is a healthier quality than maybe what you're going to get at fast food and stuff like that. But so we can still work with that type of person. We just need to figure out what are the methods that we can do to fit these things into your life, because that person might not have time to sit down and cook up a fresh lunch. I don't know many people that know or that have the time to cook up just a fresh lunch every single day and a fresh dinner and a fresh breakfast. So a lot of people need those convenient routes, but let's take away the more unhealthy option, right? If you're working in the office and you snack all day on candy because it's at your desk, get it away from your desk. Take it out of your drawer. Don't have such quick, convenient access to it, because half the time you probably don't even recognize that you just had 5 of them. You just had 10 of them or whatever it was that you're having. So take away the easy convenience of those unhealthy habits and make there be more friction with those unhealthy habits, and then less friction with healthier habits. Again, have the right things on hand, so you're in a good spot. And then the third route to utilizing food as a sense of control. And this one I would compare more to Renee and I, where we go the opposite route as the emotional eater more times than not. We go the route of, this is something we can control. Again, in a busy, hectic work day and life and stuff of that nature, good things, bad things, whatever, something I know that I have total control of. I don't have much
Rely on it as fuel and as control. Like if my
yeah.
meals are off, or if anything is off, everything else is off. So that is my steady. I would say we see it as a constant steady.
Yeah.
It's, I think, the better, not the better way to say it, but does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 So that's where we live at, is in control of our food. And again, that doesn't just snap in place, right? That is time, that is effort, that is consistency, that is constant reflection and getting better and better. And whenever we fall out of balance, we reflect on that, and then we get back in balance as much as we can, as fast as we can. And that's again through trial and error, a lot of time of doing this. But again, you got to start somewhere and you got to get to that point. And so that's where we want to strive for everybody to get to, is to be in that more controlled state. You can control your food in a positive way that then will allow you to do better. Hey, you're struggling at work. Guess what? Eating like shit at night and then screwing up your sleep and then feeling bloated and terrible and sluggish the next day, your confidence is down because you don't look good, because you don't feel good. Are you really going to thrive at work? Are you really going to thrive in your career? If you're single, are you really going to thrive in finding somebody out there when you not even showing up for yourself? Are you really going to thrive as a parent when you're teaching them extremely unhealthy habits, when you're teaching them to stress eat, to stress drink and stuff like that at nighttime? Is that your best thing with that? And it's not. We all know that it's not. It's just hard to break this shit, but we have to break it. And so this is where you can be in control of that. So if you are struggling in the workplace, if you are struggling in relationships, if you are struggling these things, again, reflect on it, be actually mindful of these things, and start again, be mindful and reflective on these things to kind of know where you are. But then think about, okay, what are some things some steps I can take to move in the right direction? If you're constantly tired every day and you're struggling at work and you're getting behind, well, then let's fix your habits the night before. Let's fix your habits a day before. Joe here, not calling out with it. I'm sure you were an awesome lawyer prior to Thriving Lives. But I'm sure that it has only helped you getting in the best shape of your life. You feel better. You feel more confident every single day. And you're not telling me that. I just am assuming it, but I would assume that's the case when you are putting in the work. You're putting time and energy into making yourself better. And I know that for Joe, that has snowballed into other positive directions. That has snowballed into him learning, I think, Spanish and reading more often. Like, these are habits that he kind of lost track of. These were not habits a year ago. But since he's been with TLF, since he has put so much time and energy into cultivating who he wants to become, he's maintained all those habits we've built together, and he's adding to them. Again, he's learning another language now. He's reading more often. He's doing these other positive things that if he hadn't started taking care of his health, I don't know if he would have necessarily done all those things, right? Because he might not have had the self-belief or the self-efficacy to actually do these things. So this is where we all want to strive to become the person who's in control, who's living intentionally, especially with the food that they're having, because that does play such a vast role in your day-to-day life and where you're going to be successful and where you're struggling at. That's what I got for you guys. You got anything else, Renee?
No, other than the fact is, would say it's possible to change. It's possible to
Yeah. Yeah,
to shift that all.
definitely. Definitely. So just a couple
Takes
of
hard work and discipline.
yes.
But build throughout when you build discipline in one area of your life, you're going to build it in other areas of your life. So pick a starting point on where you want to start building discipline, and you'll see the other times you're trying to build discipline, it's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah. And if you can build discipline around food, you can pretty much
Yeah.
build discipline around
Yeah.
anything else, because we just talked about all the different emotional ties that we are literally ingrained with since the time we are 1 years old and our parents are slamming cake to our face. You know, like we're ingrained from it from such an early age, and that only gets harder as you get older with it. So we gotta learn some shit, and that's always difficult. But so some takeaways. Obviously, check-ins are always crucial, right? If you do that, you're gonna make progress in this way. If you run from those check-ins because you struggle in the ways that we're talking about, guess what you're not going to do? Make improvements, because you're running from the one thing that's going to allow you to prove, and that is self-reflection. That's being accountable. But so become more mindful of these things, recognize these things, try to be quicker at recognizing them. In the moment when you're feeling stressed and you're feeling like, oh, I need to have whatever, recognize that that is something that is not serving you. It is not taking away the stress. All it's doing is compounding that stress, because in that moment you feel a little bit happier, but immediately afterwards you regret having done that, especially if you're trying to work on your health and improve these things. So now you regret having done that, and then maybe even tomorrow, depending on how far off the rails you went, the scale is up, you feel bloated, you feel like shit, and now that is another way that you are feeling worse and worse and worse. So be mindful of these things in the moment, be mindful of these things the next day. Find those healthy alternatives. So if you are constantly snacking, you're coming home from a long stressful day and you're immediately going to the fridge and grabbing whatever it is that you're used to in the pantry, replace what those things are. It isn't that you have to completely cut that habit out right away. It's let's replace them with better alternatives. Don't have the junk food on hand if you are more likely going to eat it during times of happiness or sadness. Non-food coping mechanisms. So I think this would be the next step is using exercise as your stress reliever. I can tell you guys that the thing that when I feel the most out of whack and out of balance, the best thing for me, well, the best thing is to get to Colorado and get into the mountains and just be out and away from people and away from my phone and go on a hike. Maybe do some hammocking, but can't always do that. It's 8 hours away from where we are. So I'll go to Shawnee Mission Lake, which Victoria, you have no idea where that is. It's here in Kansas City. But yeah, so I'll go there and I'll get out on a hike. I'll take my dog, or I won't take my dog if it's too hot for him, and I'll get out there and do that. And that is such a great break away from the world where I can just be with my thoughts or just be with music if that's what I'm trying to do as well. And I do my best thinking in that way where I can really work through whatever it is stresses that I'm doing. And then obviously seek support. Now you guys have, if you're listening to this, then you know you already have Renee and I, you have the accountability groups in this group as well. And we're always just a text or a phone call away. Always here for you guys in any way that we can be there for you, but elicit more help. You know, if you have people that you work very closely with every day, if you have, relatives, family, whatever the case is, include those people in your journey, tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it and how they can possibly help you. Everybody wants to lend a helping hand. Everybody likes to be of help to those that we love and we care about. So if I guarantee if you went and asked your coworker, hey, I'm really struggling with stress eating. I'm really struggling with maybe not getting enough movement each day. Can you help me stay accountable? If you see me get up and go to the snack drawer, can you yell at me, throw something at me, whatever you want to, whatever that works with your guys' relationship. So those are some things. Again, we want to strike a balance. It isn't that you can't ever do these things. It's just be mindful of them. Know when to give yourself the grace and know when you don't need any grace. You just need to not do the shit that keeps you stuck in this very negative cycle. So recognize the difference between that grace and those excuses and stuff of that nature, and we'll get you where you want to. But anyway, that's what we got for you guys tonight. My friends on the call, you guys have any questions, any thoughts, anything to add to this? Sorry, I probably should have asked you guys if you had that earlier, now that I've just been talking for 40 straight minutes. Any questions about anything else? The floor is always yours at this point, but if you guys don't have anything, we'll let you go. All right, rock and roll. Well, great talk tonight, Renee, and everybody else. Thanks for being here. And Renee's people, you got check-ins tomorrow. My people, you got check-ins on Sunday. Yeah, let's keep it going. August is going to be a good month. This fall is going to be a great season. Let's kick ass, guys.
See ya.